Hello, Amy Elizabeth, somatic and intuitive healer here. And joining me tonight is the amazing Kate Roberts.
Hello.
And we are here to chat a little bit about the astrology of this week. We are less than 2 hours away from the peak of the Virgo Dark Moon. Also, a lot of people call it a new moon. I go with a dark moon because I'm coming from a more shamanic background. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Here we go. So the first thing that really caught my eye for this week is on September 12th. We have a confluence of goddesses that happen in earth signs.
What does that mean? That they're dancing together in the skies or big square dance of the goddesses?
A square dance of the goddesses. Mm-hmm. So first we have a trine between the Hawaiian creatrix Haumea.
Okay.
And she is conjunct Ceres. Mm-hmm. And they're both in Libra. Haumea's at 29. Ceres is at 28 of Libra, which is an air sign.
Okay.
And they are trine, which is a supportive aspect or an aspect of Jupiter to our friend Vesta, who is 29 degrees of Gemini.
All right.
So if we're looking at, well, what do these energies mean?
Right.
What are these goddesses doing?
Right.
We've also, Vesta is square to Pallas Athena, who is over in Virgo right now, which is the sign of the priestess.
Is she happy there? Is that where she likes to hang out? Or
it is one of the places she likes to hang out. And Haumea and Ceres and Vesta all actually rule Virgo. Okay. So right now, Pallas Athena is kind of answering to them.
Okay.
If we're going with the Greek version, the Greco-Roman version of Pallas. If you want to know more about Pallas, pop out of my most recent video from last week where I dove into Pallas's Libyan origins and just sending all kinds of love over the tragedy of the flood in Libya right now. It's just incomprehensible.
Yeah.
So let's meet each of these goddesses individually.
Yes, let's do that. Let's learn more about the players of the square dance.
Yes, the players of the square dance. So, and it's a triangular dance.
Okay.
Because it's a trine.
Mm-hmm.
So Haumea is a creation goddess. And she is credited with creating the entire Polynesian pantheon.
Wow. Okay.
All of humanity. And all
just all of humanity,
all of life on Earth. Okay. She is the patroness of childbirth. Okay. She is a goddess. One of the reasons she's the patroness of childbirth is because her mythology is that she can birth from any space in her body parthogenically.
Wow. Okay.
So she's pretty powerful.
Okay.
She also has a very important stick because, carry a big stick.
No. Always.
Called a makale.
Okay.
And a makale it calls to food sources.
Okay.
So she uses the makale to feed. So she is in charge of this infinite food supply.
Okay.
She's a goddess of eternal youth. She is about our connection to nature, as all the goddesses tend to be. And while she is not plugged in to the Euro-Asian goddesses necessarily, if she were more plugged into that Celtic older lineage, she would likely be considered a great goddess.
Okay.
And the great goddesses are, one of the reasons they're great goddesses is they don't answer to anybody.
Yes, that is correct.
They answer to no one.
All right. That
For
would make you
any
great.
Reason.
Yes.
So we've got Haumea in here, and Haumea's, it's interesting to me that it's coming at this time, September 12th, as we approach the fall equinox, because one of Haumea's powers is because she's in charge of childbirth, because she can birth from anywhere, and she's in charge of our fecundity. She is also, she takes fallow time.
Good.
You'd
have to. With all that birthing from all your parts, you'd need to take a break. Good for her.
And that's actually her shadow.
Okay.
Which we can see in so many places, is the refusal and the inability to take fallow time.
Mhm.
Is we overcommit and we overdo,
Yeah.
and we don't know when to dial it back.
Yeah.
We don't know when to say, it's
I need a break.
break time. So it's fascinating to me that she and Cerise right now, also Ceres, Demeter, however you want to say that name, are both in Libra. It's about balance. It's a sign of balance. And Cerise is another great goddess.
Okay.
And she is about, as is Haumea in some sense, about loss and return.
Okay.
Cerise brought us the Aleutian mysteries. She brought us harvest. She brought us grain, cereal. Cerise, it's all plugged in there. So these two great goddesses, and the gift that Cerise, one of the gifts that Cerise brought us was the gift of the seasons.
Okay.
Actually enhancing and setting up a time when we can look. You said the other day, you can tell by the leaves and you can tell by the breeze.
Yeah. Breeze in the trees.
The breeze in the trees. That we're moving into fallow season, moving into a rest time, where we're being asked, these goddesses in Libra, to find balance between our doing and our output, our gestating, our nurturing, our doing, and our resting. And that is really, really supported right now by our friend Vesta in Gemini, who's the keeper of the sacred flame. I know you and Nico like to call her Vespa rather than Vesta.
Easier to remember.
And I see Egrid is making an appearance tonight. Hi. Thanks for being here.
She's a big supporter.
She's
big fan.
She is a big fan. So Vesta is this keeper of the eternal flame. She was actually the first Olympian.
That's cool.
So when Lord Kronos decided he was going to eat his children,
as one does,
because you've all been following, I hope, my whole sins of the father that we've been talking about, Vesta is woven into this, because as the first Olympian, he was the first of the children that she ate.
Okay.
She was also the last of the siblings that escaped when Jupiter challenged his father.
I would think an Olympian would be able to outrun or wrestle, fight back and not be the first eaten somehow.
Well, hi. Vesta is this great goddess association, and we think of her often in times in conjunction with Vestal virgins.
Okay.
And when we hear about Vestal virgins, when we learn about them in, say, school, or when we learn about them out in the world, it is oftentimes associated with our very toxic patriarchal version of virgin, as, unknown to a man.
Right. I usually see them scantily clad dancing in a circle. Right. Art history says they are scantily clad and dancing in a circle in the forest somewhere.
Yes.
Okay.
And as Christianity rose in Rome in the 4th century, Vestal virgins actually, the old original way back times virgin was a woman who was whole unto herself.
Right. She got to say no.
She got to say no.
Cool.
So the Vestal virgins were priestesses who worked initiating people to the sexual mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
As Christianity rose in the 4th century, it turns out that the male bodies decided that they needed to make virgin mean unknown to man. And as we're dealing with this whole idea of being unknown to a man, if a Vestal virgin was raped or had contact with a man, so essentially did her job,
sure,
having contact with someone sexually, they would actually wall her up alive with like a little bit of food and a little bit of water and a torch. for punishment for basically doing her job.
Right.
And Vesta in Gemini is asking us to look at other perspectives. So we've got Hamea and Charisse up in Libra, pretty close to the South Node. What old ideas about how balance works do we need to shed and get rid of?
Okay.
Being really supported and expanded by Vesta and Gemini, who says we need to look at more perspectives than just our own.
Yes.
And Vesta is square Athena over in Virgo. And we're going to go back actually to the Libyan version of Athena, where she was a mother goddess, because Athena was part of a triple goddess set, and the Libyans called her Neith. So we have Pallas, the maiden, Athena, the mother, and Medusa, the crone. And they were a triple goddess unit moving us through our lives energetically as women. So there's just something with these goddesses. And if we want to look at it, Pluto is in a square to this, but we're gonna ignore Pluto. Pluto gets a lot of press. He's got plenty of press right now with the moving into the Vedic Pluto return for the United States. We've already had the tropical Pluto return. And while I am a traditional astrologer, the Vedic Pluto return, the sidereal return that has to do with the precession of the equinoxes, I think that feels more energetically accurate, that 2024 is actually when we're going to see what a Pluto return looks like from a front row seat.
Okay. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be good and positive, or?
Well, Pluto's about transformation.
Okay. Transformation.
Pluto is about what is deeply rooted.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things right now, especially here in the United States and really globally, that we have an idea that they're deeply rooted. And it might be time for those to be ixnayed.
Okay.
What's that look about?
Well, because we always talk about this, and I'm always like, is it going to be great and amazing? And you're like, it might be hard. It's probably going to be hard.
Well, but
so
I think that is great and amazing, because we're capable of doing hard things.
Yes, we are.
We can do hard things.
Yes, we can.
Glennon, Abby,
Look at us,
sister.
Yeah.
We're capable of doing hard things, and our unwillingness culturally, which is why all of these goddesses, Hamea and Charisse, Vesta, Pallas, are so important, is because working in that more goddess energy moves us into finding a balance of what it is to move through a cycle of loss and return, of death and birth. And, I know I have been through a lot of personal changes in the past year.
Me too.
A lot of death.
Yeah.
And those deaths have led to better things.
Yeah.
And have they always necessarily been easy?
No.
Feeling the feels and being in the flow of it is really what's allowed it to move with some ease. And has it been awesome being like, oh, look, there's my control freak coming out, wanting to manage that, saying things like, well, my house, when it isn't my house anymore. I sold the house, not my house anymore. Got no business making decisions for that house anymore. Which brings us to this dark moon happening. It's peaking at 8:39 Central Time. Adjust for your time zones this evening, on Thursday, September 14th, where we're going to have the moon come together with the sun in Virgo at 21 degrees. That's what makes it a dark moon. It's actually this time of symbolic union. And for me, one of the things we so forget about dark moons, because what we hear is it's a time of planting, it's a time of planting, it's a time, plant your seeds, plant your seeds. No, sweethearts. Slow it down. Wait. What are we waiting for?
What are we waiting for? A sign from ourselves.
A sign from ourselves. We are waiting for after the peak, like do the releasing, go through the loss, Let things go. Make space so that you're not just gestating and
Right.
nurturing and planting more and falling into Hamea's shadow of more, 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 more. And this is a great earthy moon.
Okay. Different than other moons.
Well, it's in Virgo.
Okay. So that makes it more what?
Well, Virgo's an earth sign, the sign of the priestess. So, and Virgo's about practicality,
Okay.
about details, about how we're meeting the things. Virgo in its shadow is a perfectionist and a control freak. So back that up. We don't want any perfectionists. We don't want any control freaks. There is no such thing as perfect other than exactly as you are in that moment, perfectly imperfect. And this moon feels lovely because it creates what's called a grand earth trine.
Okay.
With Uranus, who is retrograde in Taurus, the great awakener.
All right.
My favorite particular title for Uranus is the king killer. Really like
Sounds
that
powerful.
one.
Okay.
Right? Really like the king killer.
Mhm.
And Pluto, who is over in Capricorn.
Okay.
Really having us check, who's the boss of you? Who is it outside of yourself that you're giving authority to?
Okay.
And if that authority is being given to old ways of thought, old traditions, because we're moving towards the holiday season, I'm going to pick on people who get live Christmas trees. I'm just going to go ahead and pick on those people.
All right.
It is a tradition. It's a tradition. Understanding that we're in a period of climate collapse. Is it really an aligned tradition? And to look at it and say, well, I have to go buy a tree because if I don't go buy a tree, all of the tree farmers are going to go out of business. That's like saying we can't shift from renewable energy to renewable energy from fossil fuels because, oh my goodness, all of those people that work in the fossil fuel industry are going to go out of business and they can't possibly fucking find another job.
Because renewable energy isn't hiring anyone.
No.
Or doing anything new or expanding.
No.
So, okay.
No, none of that. So really looking at the traditions. That's what Pluto's asking us to do by being in Capricorn and looking at our minute-to-minute life traditions. Do we need that live tree? Do we need that thing? Do we need this thing? This is a boots on the ground grand trine. And it's actually driven by Neptune.
Why? How?
Why and how?
Why and how?
Because Neptune is exactly opposite the moon and the sun.
Okay.
He is also retrograde, by the way. So this kite has got 3 big generational players, all retrograde because we're in retrograde season.
Yeah.
So we're turning in, we're looking at ourselves. And in a dark moon, from a shamanic perspective, this is about our dreaming. And as I always tell all my dark moon kids, we are living in someone else's dream right now.
Yeah.
That you and I can sit here and be live on the YouTube, and then we can pop it up on the Facebook and the social media places, like very Aquarian ideas, and we're living in someone else's dream.
Sure.
Because for those of us, I'm going to age myself here, that grew up during the Jetsons, we watched this happen on TV.
Yeah. The TV phones.
Yeah. So we can dream into the world we want to create. And dark moons are perfect for that. First, we have to move through these last couple hours of release.
Okay.
Letting go. Being done with the things. And that Neptune, at this point of the kite, is kind of driving it.
Yeah. He loves to drive the boat. It's his most favorite thing. Yes.
He does love driving the boat.
He does.
And Neptune is addiction.
Okay.
Neptune is delusion. Neptune in its highest is this beautiful androgynous shamanic energy that is non-binary and sees itself super clearly, and that it is actually everything and nothing.
Wow. Okay.
It's just when Neptune is functioning in its shadow,
Mm-hmm.
it's fake news.
Mm-hmm.
It's craziness. It's the willingness of people to buy into what they want to hear.
Okay.
Whenever we're buying into the things we want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Neptune getting in there with his trident, fucking shit up.
Okay.
The other thing that happens today is that Pallas Athena is going to move into Libra.
And what happens then?
Well, Pallas Athena has been hanging out in Virgo.
Yes.
And she hasn't been, she was last in Libra. For those of you that understand that astrology is a cycle and like to look back, she last moved into Libra November 5th of 2018.
Okay.
And Athena is about wisdom and strategy and balance.
Mm-hmm.
Even in her triple goddess form in Libya, she was this middle point, balancing out the innocent and the maiden of Pallas and the crone and the sexual energy of Medusa.
Mm-hmm.
So Athena brings us balance. Athena in her shadow is the ways in which we kill our feminine to become acceptable to masculine.
Okay.
She's often considered the motherless daughter because everyone forgets in the Greco-Roman myth about her mother. Her mother was a sea titan. She was one of the titans, and she was a sea titan. Her name was Metis. And there was a prophecy that Metis was going to bear the child that overthrew Jupiter, or Zeus. And so Zeus, in true sins of the father fashion, decided he was going to eat his pregnant consort, baby and all.
Okay.
And Metis birthed and raised Athena.
Inside.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is why the myth is that Zeus, Jupiter, had this terrible headache, and he needed his head cleaved with a double-edged axe, which is a what? Yeah.
Okay.
It's all coming together now,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. He needed that because the pain.
The pain of having this. That's why Athena leapt from Zeus's head, is because his head was cleaved with the double-edged axe.
Yes.
Which, what is that?
Libris.
The Libris.
Oh, wow.
Which is the sign of matriarchal culture. It's on the lesbian flag too. Go team. So much of Athena's mythology asks us to look at and examine where are the ways that we are co-opting feminine wisdom, feminine strategy, turning it into manipulation.
Okay.
To be and this drives me nuts, the neck that turns the head of the male.
Okay.
It's about feminine manipulation. So Pallas moving into Libra is going to come in with some more balance. Mm-hmm. She's going to come in, Libra's an air sign, so this is going to get heady. She's going to go from the earthy womb energy of Virgo into the headiness of Libra. Okay. She will next return to Virgo, for anybody who wants to keep track of this stuff, October 10th of 2027. So we've got some time for her to make her way around the zodiac. September 15th, tomorrow, Mercury stations direct at 8 degrees of Virgo.
Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Should we?
Well, he's not.
How do we prepare for this event? Should we prepare?
Mercury has to clear his shadow still.
Okay.
He's got to get to past 21 degrees of Virgo, okay, for us to be in new territory.
All right.
Because at 8 degrees, he entered his shadow, moved direct. He's stationed at 21 degrees, got us a whole new level of information, mm-hmm, to things that we're having trouble with. Mercury, this is his third retrograde in an earth sign this year.
Okay. He's been busy.
And Mercury normally does 4 tops retrogrades per year. The fact that we are here in September means we're having a 4 Mercury retrograde year.
Okay.
And it's been all earth signs. He retrograded in Capricorn. He retrograded in Taurus. Now he's retrograding in Virgo.
Does he like earth signs? Is that a good place for him to be?
He's a ruler of Virgo.
Okay.
Because Virgo is the most analytical and the most heady of the earth signs.
Okay.
Great. Virgos are great at analytics. They're great at paying attention to the details. They also have zero tolerance for anyone else's imperfections. And as we've talked about, perfectly imperfect.
Yes.
So Mercury stationing direct means that he's got one more sweep. So the things that you've been struggling with for about the past 4 weeks, 3.5, yeah, actually 4, let's go 4.5 weeks that you've been seeing that you struggle with, and then you see that you struggle with, and then you see that you struggle with. He's going to give one more sweep of, hey, if you change some shit,
it might go better for you.
It might go better for you.
Okay.
How's Mercury retrograde been going for you?
I don't, it's always a challenge, right? And is that the communication piece?
It's the communication,
okay,
transportation, technology.
Yeah. In a retrograde, I always have trouble at work with the technology that we use. And we had trouble last week. So I'm hoping that we won't have trouble this week, but probably we'll just have trouble in a new way is probably what will happen. So.
And for certain people who have Mercury retrograde natally in their charts, where their native is retrograde, Mercury retrogrades feel really comfortable for them, and they can't figure out why everyone else is having so many problems. Like, why can't the rest of you people get things straight? Because this feels actually very comfortable. Whereas Mercury direct feels really uncomfortable for natives who have their Mercury retrograde. So Mercury is going to station direct, and then the sun in Virgo is going to hit 22 degrees, where it's going to create a trine with retrograde Uranus. Okay. The sun brings illumination. The sun brings willpower and drive. They're both in earth signs. So there's going to be some drive to start to take action on the things that we maybe considered uprooting or planting with the dark moon. Questions, comments, dedications, requests?
No.
Snide remarks?
I'm buckled in. I'm ready.
You always are. Finally, on the 17th, Venus in Leo, who is still in her post-retrograde shadow. So she took this trip through Leo, asking us, having everybody look at our self-worth and our expressions of self-worth. Are your expressions of self-worth wrapped up in who you're going to cancel and who you're going to control and who you're going to shut down? Because if your self-worth is about who you're going to cancel and who you're going to shut down, you need to check yourself. The only thing you can control is you. You can't control anybody else. Ever.
No, I can't keep track of this. I can't. It's too much. It's too much for me.
So Venus in Leo in her post-retrograde shadow is going to square retrograde Jupiter one more time. So this is the third part of a story that started on June 11th.
Okay.
So go back to June 11th, which was the second day of owning the new house. Yep. The old house was still on the market. Like, go back. What was going on June 11th? Like, oh, that was the day we accepted the deal on the house. And then the next time they squared up was when Venus was retrograde before Jupiter was retrograde on August 22nd. So you want to go back to August 22nd. What was going on that affected your sense of self? Like, it's a big wake-up call when your sense of self is affected by whether or not you're buying a home and selling another home. You start to recognize how much your sense of self is tied up in those things. And then August 22nd was the next piece of the story. And September 17th is the third piece of the story. Now we've got time still as Venus finishes and moves through her post-shadow period. And they're meeting again because Venus is direct and Jupiter is now retrograde.
Okay. And Jupiter is the one that makes things bigger.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Look at how good you're doing with all
I know
this.
some stuff.
You know some stuff. So that's what we're looking at for the astrology of this week. And as we move towards the equinox, the big invitation feels like really getting clear on where you want to put your energy. What do you want to gestate? What do you want to invest in? Because going back to Haumea at the beginning, any place that we are over investing, we lose the ability to really truly nurture and nourish. So Women's Circle is still open for invites. Reach out with questions, comments, dedications, requests. Thanks for coming to play.
Thanks for inviting me.
We're gonna work on Kate being a regular feature. Normally she has a lot of good questions.
Yes.